broken heart, after 10 failed weddings, he stopped feeling anything. But when she knocked on his door years later, holding a letter and a secret that could change everything, he didn't expect what she was about to reveal. Flushed face, what made her leave the night before their wedding? Crying face, what truth was she carrying all these years? And when she finally said, "James, there's something else I never told you," you won't believe what came next. Mantelpiece clock, this is not just a love story. It's a story of pain, loss, and maybe a second chance. But only if you stay till the end. Backhand index pointing right if you want to hear what she confessed. Watch this till the last second. And if you love emotional, cinematic storytelling like this, white heavy checkmark, subscribe now for more powerful stories. Speech balloon and drop a comment below with your thoughts or the kind of stories you want next. Because the truth she reveals will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. After 10 failed weddings, I stopped feeling anything. Not anger, not sadness, not hope, nothing. I remember the first one like a slow-motion car crash. Heather. She cried when I knelt, said yes before I could finish, then vanished 2 weeks before the date. I thought that would be the worst of it. It wasn't. My mother used to say, "Son, love's a promise. If you break it, you borrow pain." By wedding 5, I had enough pain to lend the whole damn town. The worst part? People stopped sending gifts, stopped showing up, stopped believing, including me. I built my life in a small Virginia town where everyone knew everyone. After wedding 7, they just called it another James thing. Barbecue cold, cake untouched, and me pretending I was fine. But she, number 10, was different. Ava. We met at a friend's 4th of July cookout in Tennessee. She wore red Converse with a navy sundress and said fireworks were overrated. I laughed. She didn't. That's when I knew she wasn't like the others. We dated for 2 years. She met my dad before he passed. Held his hand the night he couldn't breathe right. He whispered to me after, "She's the one, son. Don't let your past ruin this one." So I didn't. I gave her everything. The key to my house. The code to my safe. The pieces of me I didn't show anyone after wedding 3. And still, 2 days before the ceremony, I got a voicemail. No explanation. Just, "James, I can't. I'm sorry." I stood in the rain outside our venue. Tux soaked. Fingers cold. Phone still playing her message on repeat. The pastor tried to hand me a coffee. I didn't take it. That night, something broke. Not like glass. More like a final breath. Silent. Unrecoverable. People say heartbreak is loud. But mine? It was quiet. A year passed. Then 2. And I forgot how it felt to miss someone. Or to want anything. Until last week. A knock at the door. Late. Summer breeze still warm. I opened it. It was her. No makeup. Hair messy. Eyes like the night she left. She held a letter. Folded twice. Shaky hands. "Can I come in?" I didn't speak. Just stepped aside. She sat at the same table where we used to eat cinnamon toast and argue over Spotify playlists. "I was scared," she said. "I thought you'd hate me. Or worse, not care at all." I didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Didn't feel. She slid the letter across. Didn't say a word. But I could see it in her eyes. The regret. The years. The part of her that finally realized what she gave up. I picked up the letter. Paused. And then, I set it down without opening it. She watched me like I was a memory she didn't want to forget. Like maybe if I looked at her long enough, I'd become the man she left behind. But I wasn't that man anymore. "You ever wonder," I said quietly, "how many times someone can be left before they start expecting it?" Her lip trembled. She reached for the letter again, hesitated, then pulled her hand back. "I didn't come here for forgiveness," she whispered. "I came because I never stopped loving you." I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't the same either. Not the girl in red Converse. Not the woman who ran. "I waited," I said. "Longer than I should have. You had your chance. Her eyes glistened. I know. And I ruined it. The silence between us felt like a whole other person in the room. Alive. Breathing. Judging. Outside, a dog barked. A car passed slow. The world still moved, but inside that house, time had stopped. You want to know what hurts most? I asked. She nodded. I didn't even feel the pain this time. I felt nothing. She reached across the table, touched my hand gently. It was the same hand she used to kiss when I'd fall asleep on the couch. Now it didn't even twitch. Can I explain? She asked. I stood, walked to the kitchen window, looked out at the backyard where we once carved our initials into the oak. It was still there, faded, like us. She followed. I left because I thought I didn't deserve you, she said. I left because I was afraid of breaking you like they did. I turned slowly. You didn't break me, Ava. You erased me. She crumbled onto the stool, face in her hands. I see you in every guy I meet, she said. And none of them are even close. My chest tightened. Not from pain. From the memory of once having felt something. James, she whispered. I still love you. The clock ticked loud behind her. My fingers brushed the edge of the letter again. Still sealed. Still holding something I didn't ask for. I walked to the door. Opened it. The night air hit her like a truth she didn't want to hear. She didn't move. Didn't plead. Just stood. Waiting. And then, I said, I don't hate you. Her eyes flickered with something, hope, maybe. But it faded just as fast. I just don't know if I have anything left to give you. She stepped toward me. I'm not asking you to fix what I broke tonight. I just needed you to know. I looked past her, down the quiet street lined with porch lights and sleeping houses. The world felt too still, too calm for a night this heavy. Do you remember that night we sat in the truck and planned names for kids we'd never have? I asked. She nodded, tears falling silently. Your middle name was going to be his first. You wanted that. I swallowed hard. I still think about that sometimes. She moved closer. Close enough that I could smell the old vanilla shampoo she used to steal from my side of the shower. I haven't stopped thinking about us, James. I tried. God, I tried so hard. I believe you, I said. And I did. But belief isn't always enough. Not after 10 shattered beginnings. Why now? I asked. Why come back after all this time? She hesitated, then pulled a photo from her coat pocket. Faded. Edges bent. It was the two of us. At the lake. I was laughing. She was looking at me like I was the only man alive. I found this last week, she said. It fell out of an old book. And Her voice broke. I realized that I've been living half a life. She handed me the photo. I'm not asking for anything tonight, she whispered. I just needed to look you in the eyes and say I never stopped loving you. I just forgot how to show it. I stared at the photo, my thumb brushing across the version of me that still believed in forever. The porch light buzzed above us. Bugs danced in its glow. And in the silence, she turned to leave. One step down. Then another. I still hadn't said anything. She reached the bottom step. Paused. Waited. Hoped. But I stayed quiet. Not out of cruelty. Not out of pride. But because I didn't trust my voice not to crack. She stood there in the dark like a question mark at the end of a sentence we never finished. Finally, she said, if someday you remember how to feel again, you'll know where to find me. And then she walked. Down the driveway. Past the mailbox she once painted red because she said it looked too lonely. Into the night, where her silhouette faded like smoke. I stood in the doorway long after she was gone. The photo still in my hand. Her smile staring back at me. My laugh frozen in time. Inside, the house felt colder. Quieter. Like it had just swallowed the last chance I didn't know I still had. I sat down at the kitchen table. Stared at the sealed letter again. For a long time. Then I opened it. Her handwriting was shaky. But the words were clear. James, asterisk if you're reading this, it means you let me speak, even if it's only on paper. I'm not expecting anything. I just want you to know the truth. The real truth about why I ran. Asterisk. And just as my eyes scanned the first few lines, the lights flickered. A gust of wind slammed the front door shut. I looked up, startled. The letter trembled in my hand, and something in my chest, something I thought was long dead, moved. A small, sudden ache. A memory. A choice. And, before I could stop myself, I was on my feet. The letter slipped from my hand onto the floor. Half read, half hurting. I didn't know what I was doing. Only that sitting still suddenly felt impossible. I grabbed my keys. Didn't bother with a jacket. Didn't think about the time. The night air hit me sharp. That kind of deep south summer wind that carries everything. Heat, regret, hope. I didn't even lock the door behind me. My truck coughed twice before it started. Same sound it made the night we drove to that lake. The night she told me she loved me before I even knew I needed to hear it. I pulled out of the driveway. The roads were empty, just me and the weight of 10 almosts. I didn't know if I was going to her house, or just driving to feel something. Anything. Every mile blurred. I passed the gas station where we'd sneak in for late-night ice cream. The church where wedding number 2 never showed up. The diner where Ava said, asterisk, don't fall for me unless you're ready to stay. Asterisk. I didn't stay. She didn't either. But now backslash. The letter had said asterisk, the real truth. Asterisk. And I hadn't read far enough to know what it was. But I felt it. In my bones. In the part of me that still remembered her laugh echoing through my house like music I didn't know I'd miss. The sky started to break open above me. Clouds rolling. Lightning far off. Summer storm creeping in. I tightened my grip on the wheel. Not sure if I was chasing closure. Or risking one more undoing. Then I saw the streetlight. Her street. And I slowed down. Her house stood quiet at the end of the cul-de-sac. Same white porch. Same crooked mailbox she never bothered fixing. But something felt different. Like the whole place was holding its breath. I parked across the street. Engine ticking in the silence. For a second, I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel like it might answer all the questions racing through me. Was I here for answers? Forgiveness? A goodbye I never got? Or was I just afraid of feeling nothing forever? The porch light was still on. She always left it on, even when she wasn't expecting anyone. Said it made the house feel less lonely. I stepped out of the truck, boots crunching on gravel. Crossed the road. Up the walkway. Before I could second-guess it, I knocked. Once. Twice. The door creaked open. Not wide, just enough. She was standing there, hair tied back, eyes red. Like maybe she'd been hoping I'd come, but not really expecting it. Neither of us spoke at first. Just the sound of the wind pushing through the trees behind us. I didn't finish the letter, I said. Voice rougher than I expected. She looked down. I figured you wouldn't. I need to hear it, I added. From you. Not on paper. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Same way I had earlier. Same heavy silence hanging in the air. I walked in. The scent of her filled the hallway, lavender, and something warm I couldn't name. She sat on the couch. Same spot she used to curl up on Sunday mornings with coffee and my hoodie. I sat across from her. She took a breath. Deep. Scared. I left because I found out I was pregnant, she said. And I didn't think you'd want it. The room tilted. Time collapsed. I couldn't breathe. She kept going. Rush now, like the truth had waited too long to stay quiet. I panicked. After your 9th wedding fell apart, I thought maybe I was just the next in line. I didn't want to be another heartbreak for you, James. Her voice cracked. So I ran. And I lost the baby a month later. My heart thudded loud in my ears. I wanted to speak, to move, to reach for her. But all I could do was sit there, shattered in a new way. She wiped her eyes. I didn't come back to dump this on you. I just needed to stop carrying it alone. I leaned forward, hands locked together, fighting the storm building inside me. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't think you'd stay, she said. I didn't think you could survive one more goodbye. She was wrong. It wasn't the goodbye that killed me.
It was never getting the chance to say it back.
I stood up, walked to the window. The rain had started.
Soft.
Like the sky didn't want to be loud tonight. Behind me, she whispered, I still love you, James. But I understand if this is where we end. And I turned around slowly. She was sitting there, hands clenched in her lap, like she was bracing for a verdict. My throat burned, not from anger, but from all the words I never got to say. I walked back toward her, each step heavier than the last. I spent years wondering why none of them stayed, I said. My friends joked I was cursed. My mom stopped asking about wedding plans after number 6. She looked up at me, but I never stopped showing up, because somewhere deep down, I believed someone would stay. I sat beside her, close but not touching. You should have told me, even if you were scared, even if it broke us. I know, she said, barely audible. I would have stayed, Ava. That shattered her. She turned away, hands over her face, shoulders trembling. Like all this time, she'd been hoping I would have, but never let herself believe I could have. The room filled with quiet sobs and the hum of rain tapping on the windows. I looked at her, not the version I imagined during all those empty nights, but the real her, the broken, beautiful, human her.
And still,
I didn't know if I had forgiveness in me, but I knew I didn't want to leave without trying. Slowly, I reached for her hand. She let me, and for the first time in a long, long while, I felt something. Not everything. Not yet. But something. Her eyes met mine. Red but open. Afraid but honest. I'm sorry, she whispered. For all of it. I know. She looked down at her hands. I thought it was too late, she said. And I looked at her, really looked, and said, it might be. Her breath caught. Not the answer she wanted, but the truth she expected. I squeezed her hand gently. Not out of love. Not yet. But out of something closer to mercy. Everything in me wants to forgive you, I said. But I don't know if I'm doing it because I still love you, or because I'm afraid of being alone again. She nodded slowly. Didn't fight it. Didn't beg. That was always the thing about Ava. She never forced what wasn't meant. The clock on her wall ticked louder than it should have. The rain fell harder now, like it knew what was being unburied in that room. I don't want to be forgiven tonight, she said. I just want you to know, I never stopped being yours, even when I tried. That hit me somewhere old, somewhere worn and scarred. I leaned back, closed my eyes, let the quiet hold us. And in that silence, with the weight of years between us, she whispered, if there's even a 1% chance we could still find our way, I'll wait. The kind of wait that doesn't chase, that doesn't demand, just waits. I opened my eyes and said, I don't know how to love you again. Her eyes didn't flinch. She nodded, like she'd already prepared for every version of that answer. I don't expect you to, she said softly. I just needed to give you back the truth I stole from you. I looked down at her hand in mine. Still warm, still familiar. But everything else between us had changed shape. I used to dream about you showing up again, I said. Not like this. Not with pain in your pocket and a story that broke us before it began. I know. Her voice cracked. I used to dream it too. Only in mine. You didn't let me in. I almost didn't. But there we were. Two people sitting in the wreckage of something that could have been everything. She looked around the room. Same walls we once danced between. Same table we carved our initials under one rainy morning. Everything the same, except us. I'll go, she said, rising slowly. I didn't come to reopen anything, just to lay the truth down between us and walk away without it. I stood too. The space between us felt louder now, heavier. Her hand slipped from mine. She stepped toward the door.
Paused. Turned.
If this is it, I'll understand. But if there's a piece of you, even the smallest piece, that still wonders what we could be if we started over, I'll be waiting. And as she opened the door, as the rain swept in like a breath from the past. She looked back. One last time. And I stepped forward.
Not fast.
Not dramatic. Just enough for her to see that something inside me had shifted. Ava. She stopped.
Hand on the doorknob.
Back still to me. I don't know if I can start over, I said. But I can't pretend this doesn't still live somewhere in me. She turned, slowly. Eyes wide, like she didn't trust what she was hearing. I don't want the old version of us, I said. That one died with the things we didn't say. She nodded, waiting, barely breathing. But maybe. I took a slow breath. Maybe we can meet each other as strangers. Start there. Her lips parted, like she wanted to smile, but didn't dare. Strangers? She asked, voice barely above the rain. I nodded. Strangers with a long story behind them, and maybe a new one ahead. She stepped back inside, closed the door gently behind her. The storm outside pressed against the windows. But in that room, the air felt still. She looked at me like it was the first time all over again. And maybe in a way it was. I extended my hand.
Hi, I said.
I'm James. And she
laughed.
Not loud, not forced. Just that soft kind of laugh that says, I needed this more than you know. She took my hand. Hers was trembling. Ava, she said, like she was saying her own name for the first time. Nice to meet you, James. We stood there, hands locked like two people who had never fallen apart, but both knew they had. And somehow, in that strange space between heartbreak and hope, something warm sparked.
Small.
But real. She looked around, eyes wet again. I guess we start with coffee instead of cake this time? I smiled.
A real one.
The cake never got eaten anyway. She bit her lip. Maybe that's the rule now. No cakes until we know it's real. No rings. No venues. No guest lists, I said. Just coffee. And conversations. She nodded. Lots of conversations. I led her back to the kitchen. Pulled down the old tin of beans she used to insist tasted better than anything store-bought. She slid into the chair at the table. Same chair where she once told me her biggest fear was being loved wrong. And I glanced over, watching her trace the grain of the table with her fingertip like she was searching for something she'd left behind. The coffee machine hissed to life, steam rising like breath, like beginnings. And just as I turned to pour, she said, James, there's something else I never told you. I froze, cup midair, back still to her. Her voice lowered, and what she said next made my hand tremble. I kept the ultrasound. The words hit like thunder, quiet but deep. I turned slowly. Her eyes didn't waver this time. They held the weight of every second she'd carried that truth alone. It was only 8 weeks, she said, voice cracking. But I saw the heartbeat. She swallowed hard. I saw our heartbeat. I set the cup down, carefully, like I might drop it. She reached into her bag, hands fumbling, then pulled out a small envelope. Worn, edges soft from time. She placed it on the table between us. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Even after everything. Even after I lost them. I stared at the envelope. Didn't touch it. Didn't need to. It felt like the whole room had stopped breathing again. I used to imagine what they'd be like, she whispered. Whose laugh they'd have. What stories we'd tell them. I sat down across from her. My chest was tight. Not from anger. From grief I didn't know I still had left in me. I should have been there, I said quietly. You should have let me carry that with you. I know, she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. That's what haunts me. Outside, the rain softened. Like the storm knew it had made its point. She looked at me, eyes red, voice shaking. I didn't just come back to say I loved you. I came back because part of me still believes that even broken things can grow again. I opened the envelope. Inside, the grainy black and white image. Small, but alive.
Or it had been.
I traced my thumb over the shadow in the center, not knowing what to say, not needing to say anything. She was silent, letting me sit with it. And after a long moment, I looked at her, really looked, and said, I would have loved them. Her eyes closed just for a second, like she was holding that moment close, protecting it from time. I know, she whispered. That's what makes it hurt more. We sat there in the quiet. Two people who had lived lifetimes in the spaces between words, between truths, between the chances we didn't take. The coffee sat untouched. The photo rested on the table. And outside, the rain had stopped completely. I don't know what happens next, I said, voice low, steady now. And maybe we don't have to know. Maybe we don't owe each other anything but the truth. She nodded, tears still clinging to the edges of her lashes. But, I added, if there's still a path for us, if it exists, it has to be slow, gentle. Her lips parted, and for the first time that night, she smiled. Not a memory of joy, but the beginning of new peace. I'd rather walk slow with you, she said, than run with anyone else. We didn't reach for each other, didn't force an ending or a beginning. We just sat, in the silence, in the stillness, in the truth, letting the weight of what we'd lost make space for whatever might come next. And as the first light of morning crept through the window, casting soft gold across the table, I looked at her, at the woman who had once shattered me, and now sat rebuilding something neither of us had a name for. And for the first time in years, I felt ready to begin. She leaned back in the chair, hands folded in her lap, eyes soft in the glow of morning. Outside, the trees stood still. The storm had passed. Inside, something else had too. I'm not here to rewrite the past, she said. Just to be part of your present, if you'll let me. I nodded. Not fast, not certain, but honest. I don't know how to let someone in without breaking, I said. Everything in me has been stitched up so many times. I've forgotten what whole even feels like. She looked down, then back up. Then let's not chase whole, she whispered. Let's just be honest. Even if it's messy, even if we have nothing but today. That's when I knew. She wasn't asking for forever. She was offering a beginning. I stood slowly, poured the coffee finally, brought her a cup. She took it with both hands, like it meant more than warmth, like it meant forgiveness, like it meant we might be okay someday. We sipped in silence. No declarations, no promises, just the quiet understanding of two people who had lost everything and somehow still found their way back to the same table. When she finished, she placed the mug down gently, stood. I should go, she said. Not to walk away, just to let it breathe. I walked her to the door. She paused, turned to me, and in the softest voice said, James, whatever happens from here, thank you for letting me be seen again. I reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, just like I used to. You were never invisible, I said. I just couldn't see past my own ruins. She smiled, bit her lip, then walked out into the light. This time, there was no slam, no voicemail, no vanishing, just the sound of footsteps on wet pavement, fading into a world that, for the first time in a long time, felt like it might just make room for us again. And I stood there, hand on the door, watching the woman I once lost walk away slowly, not as a goodbye, but maybe, just maybe, as the start of finding our way home. I stood there a while, long after she disappeared down the street. The air smelled of rain and beginnings, not fresh starts. Those are too clean, too sharp. This felt softer, like something old was finally settling into its right place. I closed the door gently, turned back into the house. The envelope still sat on the table. Ultrasound inside. A tiny echo of what could have been, and maybe still was, not in form, but in meaning. I picked it up, held it close to my chest. Not in grief this time, in quiet honor. Then I opened the kitchen window, let the morning drift in, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel haunted. I felt here. The house didn't feel as empty. The walls didn't echo the same way. Even the silence had changed. Less hollow. More calm. I sat back down. Coffee still warm.
Pulled out a pen.
An old notebook. And I wrote 3 words across the page. Begin with honesty. No plans. No big declarations.
Just that.
A truth I could hold on to. And outside, somewhere not too far, a woman who once ran was walking toward whatever tomorrow we might share. Not because we had to, but because we still could. And sometimes, that's enough. Later that afternoon, I took a walk. Down the familiar streets, past the park where we once laid under the stars, and argued about constellations. She swore Orion pointed east. I still say she was wrong. The town hadn't changed much, but I had. I walked slower, not because I was tired, but because I finally wanted to notice things. The laughter spilling from a diner window, the sound of a dog barking behind a white picket fence, the soft creak of the swing at the church playground. Everything felt quieter, but not empty. More like space had opened up, room for something new. When I got back, the sunlight was stretching across the front porch. Golden. Still. I opened the front door. The house welcomed me, not as a reminder of what I lost, but as a place I could return to. I sat at the table again, where her mug still sat. Faint lip print on the rim. I didn't move it, didn't clean up. Some moments deserved to linger a while longer. I looked out the window, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder who might leave next. I didn't replay old weddings or empty aisles. I just breathed, and I thought of her, somewhere nearby, carrying the same quiet hope I was now holding in my hands. Maybe tomorrow we'd talk again. Maybe we'd share more coffee. Or just sit in silence. Whatever it looked like, whatever shape it took. I knew one thing. We were no longer what we used to be. And that was okay. Because healing doesn't always roar back in. Sometimes, it arrives in soft footsteps. A quiet knock. A second chance wrapped in the same hands that once let go too soon. And when it does, you don't run. You open the door. And this time, you let it stay.